Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachari Tira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Kantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Gaur Premanand. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Today we are reading from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, chapter 31, and text, I think we start with 11 to 21, maybe? Not sure. So, therefore, yeah, 21. So, just a little resetting. These two chapters in Kapila Dev's teachings are quite extraordinary. And although they may seem to be quite observatory and perhaps stark, any other words that you would like to use to describe these? Shocking, dreadful, enlightening, explicit. Yeah, they're powerful, actually, very powerful, and they are meant to invoke a reaction. They're meant to invoke a reaction, and wonderfully, the reaction should be, oh, what we'll cover today. This is what should be evoked from, and funnily or extraordinarily, Kapila, as he takes a little respite from the heaviness, and he shows a little glimmer of hope, then he again brings us right back into the struggle. And so these are very pertinent, because we, either individually or collectively, we often go through trauma in our lives. And certainly, I think yesterday you heard the trauma of one encased in a womb of a mother. And I'm sure you all were thinking, oh, I really want to get married now. But although there is benefit to that as well, there is something to it. It's not that the struggle of rearing children in couples, the sages tell Vasudeva, so extraordinary of a personality he has, Krishna as his. So you don't have to preach to Vyasadeva or Vasudeva, right? You should be pretty qualified to be Krishna's father. But he is asking, how do I get freed from the attachment of family life? Now, his attachment and his family life is perfect because his attachment is to Krishna. But for us, he's asking the question, how do I get free from this? And the answer is extraordinary. You get free from it by going through it. You get free from it by going through it. Now, if we just stop and think about that, you think, well, avoidance is my natural tendency. I want to avoid anything troublesome, so I will avoid it. But if you can, certainly avoid it. But a lot of times, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, repression or contemplation on these things without fully being able to overcome them or renounce them, that's a temporary situation, because they will automatically arise, and then being pretenders, it won't always be a fulfilling result. But in any case, to go through it, although yes, and when we look at it starkly or horrifyingly or all the different adjectives we just described, there is still some glimmer of hope. There is something that we are gaining from it. And that is why much time, this whole on the spirit soul. Spirit and the material nature is a shakti or a emanation from the Lord, but it is material and it binds us and we become influenced by it. And there's a strong influence. So when we can understand them, then there is this hope that Kapila Dev will now go through. And I'm going to do something a little different today. So eventually, but right now we're just going to read the translations to these 10 or 11 verses. So again, just after we hear and the airs of oppressing, it says the 10 months. So just in case there's confusion, we always say, oh, it's 9 months. What are you talking about? Well, so the lunar calendar would be 10 months. So that's where you get that from. But here in this last stage, the living entity in this frightful condition, who is afraid of the dark? Who is afraid of the dark now? And who was afraid of the dark in their childhood? I think we all do. Now, why were we afraid of dark? Yes.
The unknown.
The unknown. Good. What else?
Because my imagination is like monsters.
Yeah. Although there is no monster, but by our connection with things that depicted monsters, we think within the unknown, there is a monster. So in that, it's frightful. Imagine, in complete darkness, and we're going to go into that. We're going to do a little experiment in a little bit, but in complete darkness, with the unknown, and with the influence of things that may have come in contact with, either through stories, it's often a thing to do around, people camping in the dark forest. They'll tell ghost stories or something to get that frightful experience. So, but it is frightful. The living entity in this frightful condition of life, bound by 7 layers of material ingredients, and we've heard all those layers: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and the false ego. These 7 layers are covering. But then what happens? They praise with folded hands, appealing to the Lord who has put them in that condition. Wow. Now, how many of you remember this in your life? In your womb, your mother's womb? Okay. But then, yes. What was there a trauma in your life that were the only recourse that you were able to fathom or contemplate was to supplicate, to surrender to the highest authority in your life? So hopefully a lot more hands will raise that we've had this experience like that. And so this is the description of that and what goes through the mind. The human soul says, I take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in his various eternal forms and walks on the service of the world. I take shelter of him only because he can give me relief from all fear, and from him I have received this condition of life, which is just befitting my impious activities. So this is a surrender, complete and a fearful, complete surrender, but then acknowledgement that it's not somebody else's fault. It's not somebody else's fault. This is the acknowledgement of, due to my activities, either, you could say 1-to-1, like this happened and then that happened, or, when we see reactions coming in front, when we have no idea, but we understand that there is something from the past, because we believe in the transmigration of the soul, and we believe from our understanding of this that these things are carried over. So we can have some other readers. Text 13.
I, the pure soul, appearing now bound by my activities, and lying in the womb of my mother by the arrangement of Maya, I offer my respectful obeisances unto him who is also here with me, but who is unaffected and changeless. He is unlimited, but he is perceived in the repentant heart. To him I offer.
Next.
I am separated from the Supreme Lord because of my being in this material body, which is made of 5 elements, and therefore my qualities and senses are being misused. Although I am essentially spiritual, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental to material nature and living entities, because he is devoid of such a material body, because he is always glorious in his spiritual qualities, I offer my obeisances.
The human soul, or the Christ, the living entity, is put under the influence of material nature and continues a hard struggle for existence on the path of repeated birth and death. This condition of life is due to his forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, without the Lord's mercy, how can he again engage in instrumental loving service of the Lord?
These are fervent prayers. These are like helpless. When we're in a helpless condition, these are the thoughts of a pure soul reconnecting with the Supreme Soul.
No one other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the localized format, the partial representation of the Lord, is direct in all inanimate and animate objects. He is present in the three phases of time, past, present, and future. Therefore, the conditioned soul was engaged in different activities by his direction. And in order to get free from the threefold miseries of this conditional life, we have to surrender unto him only.
Again, Bhajema. We're going to focus on this aspect of surrender. But each one of these verses we could speak endlessly on, but we're going to just continue to run through. Next.
Fallen into a pool of blood, stew and urine within the abdomen of his mother, his own body scorched by the mother's gastric fire. The embodied soul, anxious to get out, counts its months and prays, "O my Lord, when shall I, a wretched soul, be released from this confinement?"
My dear Lord, by your causeless mercy, I am awakened to consciousness, although I am only 2 months old. For this causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the friend of all fallen souls, there is no way to express my pray with folding hands.
The living entity is other type of body sees only that is. He knows only the agreeable and disagreeable perceptions of that particular body. But I have the body in which I can control my senses and can understand my destination. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By whom I have been blessed with this body, and by whose grace I can see him within and without.
At the end of the previous chapter, after we heard of the sufferings in hell that the living entity had to go through, the animals they see only by instinct, agreeable and disagreeable, accepting and rejecting. That's all. That's the extent of it. And Prabhupada would often say, if that is all that we are doing, then we are no better than the animals. Say that often. 2 more verses now.
Therefore, my Lord, although I am living in a terrible condition, I do not wish to depart from my mother's abdomen to fall again into the blind well of materialistic life. Your external energy, called Deva Maya, at once captures the newly born child, and immediately false identification, which is the beginning of the cycle of continual birth and death, begins.
Last.
Therefore, without being agitated anymore, I shall deliver myself from the darkness of passions with the help of my friend, clear consciousness. Simply by keeping the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu in my mind, I shall be saved from entering into the wombs of many mothers who repeated birth of life.
Jai. I mentioned we're going to do something a little different with this. Instead of a single verse and a purport, we're going to look at this journey as a whole, and we're going to take the help of another source. But just a moment, I'll say, offer my prayers to the Srila Prabhupada. Om Gyana Tamirandasya Gyananjana Shakaya Chakshu Tamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpa Trubhyascha Kipasandubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, could I have the HDMI? We're going to first start with a little guided meditation. choice here. Okay. There we go. Very good. Let me get this little remote in here. So this condition, this expression of this soul is certainly not foreign to us. We are also in the same situation. We are in a fearful situation at times, and we experience much of the same sufferings that we've been reading about. And so it's all very relatable. And so this part of the Bhagavatam is not to just give us the philosophy of transmigration or the philosophy of human life as opposed to animal life, but it actually is to be an experience. It should invoke the same bhajema, the same emotions that this spirit soul, as explained by Kapila, is experiencing. So, and if it doesn't, that's okay. We can try a little another technique, if you'll engage, allow me. So we're going to look at two verses from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. These are very famous verses that Srila Prabhupada would often quote. The first, oops, oh, I hit a wrong button there. The first one, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna bule se jeev, anadhir bahir mukh, attaiva maya tarideya samsara dukh. So Krishna bulia, Krishna is Krishna. Bulia means is to forget, forgetfulness. And say jeev of the jiva soul, the same jiva soul Kapila is explaining. Anadi is eternal, or always, or unestimable how long, anadi. And bahirmukh is Prabhupada translates it, attracted to the external feature. But the actual literal translation is bahir. Bahir means to turn away. And mukh is your mouth or your face. So anadi bahir mukh means we have, for so long, we have made the choice to turn away from Krishna. And what is the result? Ataiva is therefore, just atato brahma jignasa, ataiva mayatare, the illusory energy of maya that we're hearing so much, what is comprised of, all the different elements, all the different senses, and then how it affects a living entity wandering through different stages of their life, and then the reactions of that life, and then a new life. This maya taradeya, this is what's going on. This is happening. Samsara dukh. It is not sukha. It is not happiness, but it is dukkha. It is dukkhalayama sashvata. It is always full of misery. And samsara means it's a cycle. So we're hearing just a very glimpse of a cycle. We have a human being. It went through some terrible activities in his life. And then he went into the lower species of life and suffered. And now he's coming back again. Now is the choice. Do I want to stay in the samsara dukkha, or do I want to be free of it? And we're hearing that sometimes the spirit soul within the womb actually turns. There may be a little less covering at that point, although they're fully garbhad. They're in the garbha, they're fully covered by the womb of their mother. But the consciousness is a little less covered, because right next to them is a super soul is sitting. and there's association. So just remember, just make a mental note. We're gonna come back to this. We turned away from Krishna, and oftentimes an example is helpful to understand this. So, Nardana, can you tell me about your day yesterday?
My day yesterday?
Yeah.
Well, my friends visited. That was nice. And then I packed all the leftovers also earlier in the day. And
So, did you see what I just did there? And how did you feel?
ignored.
Yeah,
Like
feel
you weren't
ignored. We did that, and we did that to Krishna, Bhuliya. We did that to Krishna. We've turned away from Krishna, and then I tried to have a phone in my hand, but I didn't have one. But I engaged in another activity instead of listening to my friend. So think about that. Think about that. We've each done that. The second verse, some of the same words. Krishna bahir mukh doshe, maya haite bhaya, Krishnon mukha bhakti haite, maya mukha haya. By opposing Krishna, so opposing is another way he's translating bahir mukh. By turning away, by that action, I opposed whatever Nartana was telling me. I made him up. I don't want to hear it. We've opposed it. We've opposed Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness means our thinking of Krishna. And when that happens, we become conditioned. And again, the same word throughout this section of the Bhagavatam: fearful, bhaya. Krishna mukta bhakti haite. But by performing Krishna mukta, so that's the opposite of bahir mukha. Bahir mukha is turning away. Krishna mukha is turning to Krishna. When we turn back to Krishna, and not just observantly, but with bhakti, with devotion, then maya muktahaya, we can become liberated from that entanglement and that engrossment. So we're going to do another little experiment. Can we shut the lights off for a moment? All right. Now close your eyes for a moment and think of yourself we're in the darkness. Oftentimes Srila Prabhupada, he put that as the slogan of the Bhakta Godhead, that we are in darkness. Godhead is light. Nescience, or the illusion or the attachment to the material world, is darkness. By turning to Krishna, we go. Now, slowly open your eyes and look at the screen. There's darkness. We're in darkness. And when we realize that we are in darkness and we are in a fearful condition, then slowly, an exit of that darkness will appear. And that exit, that doorway, that dwara, is called Sharanagati, surrender. So that's, again, what is the fearful, we can turn the lights back on. Thank you. That action of turning back to Krishna, that is surrender. And there's so much within that can be gleaned by the devotee. There's so much in it. There's so much, even though it's not, I surrender to Krishna and no more problems. No, there'll still be problems, but then you're in the shelter of Krishna. So to go through this, and the next thing we'd like to sing a song together. This is a song that Bhaktivinoda Thakur composed. This is his first song of Saranagati, of surrender. And it actually almost summarizes these two chapters of the Bhagavatam. in one song. But pay attention. He will evoke an emotion in you that may be startling. And so I won't tell you what that is. I'll let you experience yourself. But could I get the harmonium? And what we'll do is we'll go through these. And Brandon, can you? It's this bottom one to precede the slides. Voice so high. Okay. Dunya tomare samsare ashiya he vidya vyatha Dunya tomare samsare ashiya he Yagata Buriya Tomare Samsare Ashiya He Nanda Vidya Vyata Buriya Tomare Samsare Ashiya He Tomara charane asiya chiyami boli bodhu kera kata Tomara charane asiya chiyami boli bodhu kera kata Tomara charane asiya chiyami boli bodhu kera kata Tomara charane Janani Jatare Janani Jatare Chilamata Kona Bisham Adana Pashe Janani Jatare एक बार प्रभु देखा दिया मोरे बंसीले दीन दासे एक बार प्रभु देखा मोरे Janamapaya Koribo Bhajanatama Janama hilo odima jare na hoilo gyana lava. Janama adhalya chile swajanena kole ashiya katanu kala. Janaka janani snehite buliya samsara lagila halo. Dina dina balaga hoya keyo balaga sa. Alaki chodine gana upajilo patapode Alaki gana upajilo Vidyara Gaurave Nami Deshe Deshe Nanda Arjana Kori Vidyara Gaurave Nami Deshe Deshe Nanda Arjana Kori Swajana palana kodiye kamane bhulinu tomara hari. Swajana Bhulinu tomare hari. Bhulinu tomare hari. Bhulinu tomare hari. Hardhake akona bhakti vino dhanriya prasada ati. Hardhake akona Hardhake akona bhakti vinoda kantiya patada bhati. Second line. Nabaji atore dinabrita gelo ekona ki have gati. Nabaji adore dinabrita gelo ekona ki have gati. Ekona ki have gati. Ekona ki have gati. Thank you so much for. Okay, we can turn the lights back on. Let's look at these verses, because these are giving. Oops, I went too far again. Oh, okay, that's okay to go to that one. Yeah, we get to see the light again. Yes. Okay, come on. There we go. All right, so Bulia Tomarai. So again, the same word, Bulia. Krishna Bulia, say Jivanadhir Bahir Mukh. We've turned away from Krishna. Oh Lord, we forgot you and we came to this material world where we've experienced a host of pains and sorrows. Now I approach your lotus feet and submit my dukkha katha. It's my story, our own story. We each have our own story. We each have our, struggles that we've gone through. We've had our traumas, traumatic experiences. We've each been born that was traumatic. But then even beyond that, in this life, this short life yet lived, we've had traumas. And to turn to Krishna, this is what Bhaktivinoda is saying. Now I'm approaching you. Now I'm not just surrendering to you, but now I want to tell you about it. So this is a very important aspect of those going through recoveries or things like that. The first thing they must do is admit that they had a problem. They had an addiction. We had an addiction to the Maya Deka. We had it. So when we admit that, then we approach Krishna and we can talk to him about it. We can tell him our dukkha katha, each one of our own. And then here's right from this Bhagavatam section, by bound up tightly in the unbearable confines of my mother's womb. You once revealed yourself before me. The Paramatma is directing the activities and the movements of all living entities. And he's directing us there also. He did that, and appearing briefly, meaning the consciousness of that. This consciousness, we're going to see in tomorrow's, we're going to hear the thrusting of the trauma. The trauma yet increases for the spirit soul, and then he forgets. Then we forget. The bulia happens again. What are those elements that help us forget? But before that, I was getting ahead. I was thinking of number 4. But in that condition, after this birth, I'm going to make a firm determination. I will not abandon your worship. I will worship you. I will continue. And remember, bhajana, we will continue that. But after we became entangled in the networks. And being fondled in the laps of relatives. Oh, you're so beautiful. You're so sweet. You're so, we immediately think, oh yes, I am quite beautiful. And I am quite sweet. And I am. Everybody laughs. Every time they see me, they're smiling, they're laughing, and the affection of the father and mother, they just continue that. And we're not saying, okay, now when your child is born, you be a mean person to them so that they'll figure it out. No, it's natural. That's part of your going through that stage of your life as a parent. That will help you. And after the children are grown up, then you start to see what the sages were telling Vasudeva, that by going through it, you become detached. Because although in the beginning the children are quite attached to you, toward the end they are quite unattached to you, and that creates detachment. I can tell you firsthand. The affection, they help me forget you even more. And I began to think this material world's a nice place. Day by day we grow, we went to school. Of course, he's speaking of himself, so he's using it as a boy. But, we grew and we became, we became expert at something. We become again, you got a great goal in the soccer game or whatever, And again, these things are just building us that, yes, it is I, it is me. And I studied, I became very good in knowledge. My knowledge increased. Vidyara Gaurave, we became very proud of our knowledge. We became proud of our outlook on life, our conceptions of what is God or what is, we became very proud of it. Yes, this is what I believe. This is what I believe. And we think, okay, that's mine now. And it's yet another covering. And we've earned wealth. We became successful. And this cry, these last 2 verses, he's crying out. You can really hear it. Buliya Tomara Hari. Ultimately, this is what has happened. I forgot you. In every traumatic situation or every situation that we find ourselves in, that it is all from a result of this, as a result of forgetting Krishna. Buliya Tomara Hari. And he wraps it up. At now in old age, so yes, as we get older, we get wiser, and we, or we're supposed to be getting older and wiser, or wiser with age. But he's kandiya katari. He's weeping with great katra, with great sadness, that I akonaki habegate. I didn't worship you, and now what will be my fate? And so it's kind of leaving us. Of course, this is just the first song of 7 of the songs in this section of Saranagati, where he helps us kind of go through this concept. But he's leaving us here as almost a cliffhanger. Akonaki habegati. If we forget Krishna, what will be the fate? What will be our fate? Again, going into the womb of yet another, again getting activities and reactions from those activities. So that's we wanted to share.
That's a question.
Yeah.
How do we deal with lamentation and understanding what is the karma? What's the healthy way of doing that, and what's not so healthy?
Yeah.
What is drive themselves mad?
Mm.
Lamentation or roads mad like karma, to the point that they become non-functional.
Yeah.
So what is the healthy example? What's not healthy?
Yeah. Because often in this first part of Saranagati, especially, it's called humility. but we often, for those who look at it just external, it sounds more depression. Sounds almost, this is depression and not humility. And the difference between humility and depression is always focused on yourself. I have not done this, I have not done that, I did this, or I did that. And it's constantly the I is there. But he is, from this song, and then he increases it through the Sharanagati, he's focusing it on Krishna. Yes, there was the I, but I forgot you, Krishna. So it's turning Krishnanmukh. He's turning our heads to Krishna. And so, yeah, we can fall into the trappings of depression and thinking that I'm useless. But there's always action. There's always next action. Now in this old age. And so you could say this song leaves us on, or this verse, but the previous verse didn't. Or earlier, he says somewhere earlier, where was it? Anyway, one of these. Must be the next song I'm thinking of. But he's turning, he said, okay, now an action, I'm turning to you, Krishna. So to beat ourselves, and then we have many other examples in our shastras that help us understand this, many teachings. Again, it's that realization that this is something that we have done. We have actively, personally turned our face away from Krishna. And so when we do that, that means we are embracing material nature. And so anything that happens in material nature is a result of that first action. So our first action back is to turn back to Krishna, even though we may still be not yet through the doorway, but we see the doorway and we focus on the doorway and we focus on that. We focus on, okay, now let me, because that's what he's saying. Act on a now at this old age, now in this moment. And he repeats this throughout. Now I'm going to do it this way. Now I'm going to focus all my attention on you. Okay, I think I was remembering the verse and not the song, where he says Bhajame. It won't be fun, but I think it was number 20. Simply by keeping the lotus feet of the Lord in my mind, I shall be saved from entering further wombs. So we can acknowledge, yes, this, I deserve this. But what was Brahma's? His action was with my mind, with my body, and with my words, I am now going to worship you. I'm going to serve you. And he says that again and again in these, almost at the end of each one of these verses, that I will do that. I will be released. Oh my Lord, there's no way to do this but to pray and to serve and to Namaste, I'm offering you obeisances, I'm praying. And then you do it, then often it's like at that point, because what is the conclusion of parts of Saranagati? He comes to, my Lord, you do what you want now. I am yours. I don't even belong to myself. I'm so much yours that I don't even consider myself belonging to myself. And again, that's not in a personal type tendency. It's just when you're so much dedicated to something, you're just completely absorbed in it. And you forget, how many times do we do projects, people who work in the workshop, or they're, writers or artists, or people are doing something, or in kirtan. You just forget what time it is. Oh, I just missed that appointment. Oh, because you were so absorbed in it, and you forgot yourself. So that's what we want to be so absorbed in Krishna that these things, yes, we're going to go through mistakes. We're going to go through trials, tribulations. That's part of the deal. That's part of the being embodied. We're all going to get old, and we're all going to we're all going to come to this realization that now in old age, what have I done? We'll always look back. Oh, I could have done so much more. I should have done so much more. But you don't dwell on that in depression. It's like, but now, in the supplications, in the prayers, now let me engage in the service. And again, but the wise, the wise are old, generally old age brings wisdom. Hopefully, you have that. And we have that shelter, so we take the shelter. Any other quick thing before? I think the prasadam is here and attracting us. Thank you all very much. Thank you for allowing me to do something a little different. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Mahaprasade Govinde Nada Brahmani Ashtade Prabhu Puja